1, 2, 3, 4.
Victory song! The victory song!
What?
We want to talk with you about something.
I'm all ears.
We want to form a swing band.
Really?
A big band.
You gotta have a dream, or you won't go very far. A fantasy that dreams to reach a reachable sky.
Is this band authorized? Who approved it?
I authorized it.
Without the school board's approval.
I don't need the school board's approval. I'm the principal of Castle High, and I approve the band.
He is a consummate performer who brings a magic to whatever he does. He has such a loving heart. He is a musician, an actor, a director, a conductor, a film and TV composer. He's an arranger, a producer, and he is one of my mom's favorite people. And she said to say hi today, Mr. Emilio Palame.
Oh, thank you. Hey, David. That was an amazing introduction. I hope I can live up to it.
Oh, live up to it. You live beyond it.
Well, it's a good thing I have approval of your mother. That's all I can say.
Well, she's going to be watching.
Great.
She said, Emilio's on today. I can't wait. Say hello for me.
Oh, that's lovely. She's so sweet.
Yeah, I love her.
And the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
I know. You know, I have a tree in the other room and I'm trying to grow stuff. I don't know. Or is that a bush?
Yeah, all right.
So listen, what was first for you? Acting or music?
Music was first. I started playing in a band when I was in 6th grade, except I didn't play keyboards yet. I was actually the lead singer. And it was during a period where we were playing songs by Cream, Jimi Hendrix, and then after I started playing organ, then we did Vanilla Fudge, The Doors, and all of that, and then we started getting into some of the soul music of Sam and Dave and the Temptations, and we kind of ran the gamut of playing different music, especially, you know, of course, the Beatles, the Monkees. It was quite an eclectic little band. It was a couple of young musicians that were actually here from Finland. Two brothers, a bass player and a guitar player. And then my cousin Michael played drums, and I played organ and sang. And then it was quite a good little group. We played at YMCA dances. We played at, you know, outside parties, and, you know, I mean, we were playing 8th grade graduation parties, you know, when I was in 8th grade.
I love it.
Yeah. I was actually kind of more self-taught in the beginning. I took lessons from a piano teacher locally. And then I mostly learned by taking songs off of records, having to learn the keyboard parts. And so I learned basically by ear for quite a while.
I have to say, you're one of the best pianists.
Yes.
And accompanists. It doesn't flow off my tongue.
No,
but
that's correct.
Yeah. I think around, because when you play for someone, I mean, of course you played Thank You at an event or two for Meet the Biz.
Loved it.
And I mean, you it's sort of like when you get with your partner or whoever you're with or your partners, it's just like, you know, it's like tentacles that just work with one another and it just flows.
Well, that's really kind of you to say that. You know, I think it comes from a person's basic personality. If you're empathetic, if you're compassionate, if you really try to feel what the other person is doing. I learned that in the beginning, accompanying different singers. But when I worked with Miss Peggy Lee, it became glaringly apparent that I had to be with every little move that she made. And that was the reason why I worked with her for 11 years, because she actually loved my sensitivity and my awareness of what she wanted the pianist to play. I didn't play for myself. there were other people that played for her that she fired, like subsequently, right before I started working with her. In fact, she fired 3 different piano players 3 nights in a row before I started working with her. And they were prominent guys in the Los Angeles scene, and I'm not going to mention any names, but they played for themselves. They didn't care. You know, they were going to do what they were going to do. And it was, you know, like she could be there and they would be here. And there wasn't this, I mean, she said, look, just pretend like you're my husband and you love me. And you want to support me and care about me. And it was easy to do because she was a very sensitive individual and a phenomenal musician. So I wanted to listen to everything that she did, and I wanted to be there for her, so to speak. You know, that's probably why I'm still married to the same woman for 37 years.
Oh my God. Well, by the way, send my love to that beautiful wife of yours. I will. I love her.
Yeah, she loves you too.
Well, you know, we got to have dinner again when this is all over.
Yeah, please. People are going to turn this interview off now because it's just getting too personal.
It's getting too personal. Well, you know,
I'm kidding.
No, that's why they love this.
Oh, good.
That's why they love Meet the Biz. It gets personal. By the way, it's interesting because the next question was going to say, I'm going to throw out a name. Sure. I want you to give me your reaction.
Sure.
And the name was Peggy Lee.
Yes.
But of course,
she was an amazing woman. She had a very spiritual side to her, and she was also very tough. I watched her be not nice to some people, and it was only if they were incompetent. If you did the things that were necessary for your job, whether you were her secretary or agent or manager or bass player, piano player, if you did your job and you were competent and you really were conscientious, she was the nicest person in the world. But if you did not,
right,
she let you know, and but she had a very eclectic spiritual sense. She was really into Jonas Salk and the science of mind, the concept of white light, and she would talk about that before we would go on stage. And remember, stay in the white light, be really positive, and
that's wonderful.
So she was amazing that way, and we got to be really good friends.
Yeah, well, from whenever I come over to your house, and you mention a little story here or there, I'm always going, it's amazing. It's amazing who you connected with, who they've connected with you. I mean, I read on your site today that you performed with Frank Sinatra.
Yes.
And Paul Williams and Mamas and Papas, and the list goes on.
Well, I was musical director for Paul Williams for a couple of years, and it was really a wonderful experience. He's such a lovely person, and of course now the president of ASCAP, and in a very, very prominent position, and has done a lot for our guild because he's the musician's musician, and he's been on the forefront of the new digital music business with collecting royalties and all of those things where, other companies have missed that stuff that goes by the wayside. So, yeah.
Wow. And, it's so interesting. I loved him in
Phantom of the
Phantom of the Paradise.
Yes.
Yes. Phantom of the Paradise. And then of course, Evergreen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
When you consider all the songs that he wrote, I mean, they're just incredible. It's Not Easy Being Green, Rainy Days and Mondays, We've Only Just Begun. The list is endless, and they're all all of those songs that touch our hearts. The lyrics are so beautiful. Very sensitive individual, and wonderful.
He really, and I met him once, and very sweet man.
Very much so. The other, when you mentioned, I was also musical director for Connie Stevens and for Lainey Kazan.
Yes,
and
Lainey.
Lainey's your friend for a long time.
And she's been to Meet the Biz.
Yes, right. I know she's done some workshops for you too, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of workshops, David, I want to take this opportunity before we go any further because, a lot of times the interviews become about the person you're interviewing, but I'd like to let some people know about you because I studied with you, with your Meet the Biz group, and with many of our differently abled actors that we work with, and I have to say that I learned a great deal from you because of your level of patience and kindness and understanding with those people, and some of them were in some instances kind of difficult because they were dealing with their own physical and mental problems that they were dealing with. And you never flinched. You always were the giving one. And I remember Ellen and I used to joke because they have that saying, what would Jesus do? Well, we used to say, what would David do?
Oh my God.
No, because you're such a giving teacher and mentor to all of those people. And I think all of us grew because of that. So kudos to you, my friend.
Well, thank you. You know, I just go to each individual. Whenever I'm working with somebody, it's like, okay, what do they need to do here or there? And we had a class one day at Meet the Biz, and we had a mix of all different types of people. And it was interesting. There was one guy who, quote, didn't have a disability, and he was more blocked than anybody else in the class.
Well, that was what was so inspiring in working with the people who were differentially abled. And I mean, it was their sensitivity and their awareness and their willingness to fight through whatever they were dealing with in their own personal health issues to just get to the root. And I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, and use it within their work, which was so great.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that I loved is it was several years back. I saw you in your one-person show that you wrote and put together, and it was amazing. It was a stunning evening.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you. I enjoyed putting that together, and it's interesting talking about health issues. I wrote most of the script to that when I was recovering from cancer surgery, when I had kidney cancer. So there's a lot wrapped up into the emotions of going back in time, as I was talking about when I was in 6th grade and going through high school and playing in the different bands, and then eventually going to music school, getting my degree in music, working with the Fredonia Jazz Ensemble. And that kind of brings me to where we are right now with this project that I'm producing and directing called The Nights of Swing, because it's all of that background of my musical life, especially my big band days in college and my own big band after college.
Yeah. Well, that project, I saw the screening of it. Of course, I was lucky to see it at your place and then see it on the big screen several months later when it was like, and it's amazing. What's going on with that project right now?
Well, it's an interesting turn of events. COVID-19 has changed everybody's life, especially in the entertainment industry, because there's no live music anymore right now. And production is just starting to get ramped up again. But we found it originally, that show that you saw was the pilot that we had put together to do a series of the Nights of Swing, and it's spelled Knights, for those who are listening. And it's a story of a young group of high school jazz musicians in the late 40s, in 1947, and they have this small group, and they have this dream of becoming a big band. So they coerce the math and science teacher, who they know had a background in big band jazz, and through all of the minutia, we end up going to the Battle of the Bands in the end, which would have been episode 9 after the pilot. So what we did is David Guttel, who's my associate director, and Roland Jacks, who wrote the story, we took the episodes that Roland wrote, 2 through 9, and then we condensed those into what would be the second half of a feature film. So we're inserting some scenes in the pilot itself, about 6 scenes into that. And then the story continues there. And so we're making it into a feature film. And our plan right now is we're going to do two days of shooting at the end of July, hopefully. We're waiting for SAG to ratify the contract right now. And then we're going to do 17 more days in August. It's all tentative right now, but it's all coming together. We've got the script is completely done. We've already made the schedule of what days we're going to film. And this is what I was talking to you about last night, David, about what we have to do in order to be able to be on set. And it's pretty daunting.
So yeah, what is that? What do you actually have to, what are the things that you have to do in this? I mean, I'm afraid to go out of my front door right now.
Well, yeah, and rightfully so. And I think people need to be smart and they need to be safe. I think one of the problems that California and Florida and Arizona and Texas are having is because people thought, oh well, it's calming down, it's going to be over soon, and pretty much just to quote someone, I'll say, oh, it's going to magically disappear.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I don't want to get political, but I think it's not going to magically disappear, and it's getting worse because people are being cavalier about it. So with that in mind, to answer your question, we have to have an epidemiologist nurse on set at all times. We all have to wear masks. We have to order hundreds of rapid test kits so that we can be tested, because SAG-AFTRA is asking us to test at least 2 or 3 times a week.
Ooh.
And the expense of that and the difficulty of doing that is a bit overwhelming. But when is it going to end? We don't know. And we feel like we're going to do all of the things. We're going to follow all the protocol that the union is asking us to do, and that Los Angeles County Health is asking us to do. There will be a sanitizing crew on set at all times. And the way SAG-AFTRA has set up the guidelines is that there's 3 zones. There's Zone A, Zone B, and Zone C. Zone A is where the filming takes place. So you can't wear a mask while you're filming.
Right.
So, but until they say, okay, picture's up, we're ready to shoot, you have your mask on. So that's the actors and the immediate camera crew. Then Zone B is craft services, makeup, wardrobe, hair, and any other prop department that we need. That's Zone B. And there's protocol between the actors and the technical people going from Zone A to Zone B, but people from Zone B cannot go to Zone A. Ooh. And then there's Zone C, which is where you live or where you're staying, because some people will have to stay in a hotel or whatever. So we've got 3 distinct zones that have to be followed to the letter of the protocol. And it adds a great deal of extra time and expense, because the expense of having enough testing kits alone and all of the masks and gloves, the face protectors. I mean, it's daunting, David, but we're all dedicated, and we've all talked about this for a crew. Everybody's already been tested once, right. And of course we're going to have to continue to be tested. Everybody's tested negative so far. That's part of it, and no one has been symptomatic in our crew or cast, which is, please,
Yeah.
We pray, and so we're just going ever forward, but with extreme caution.
Yeah.
But what else?
What?
I said, what else are we going to do? If we can wait, then it'll be September, and it's still not. It's still the same. It could be October, November. There's no vaccine. There's nothing different.
Well, if we go by the 18 months, that's not till next year.
Right. And we actually have a very time-sensitive project, because these kids are in high school and or a little bit later playing high school, and they're not getting younger. I mean, we've already shot that pilot a year ago to date. We shot that at the beginning of June last year. Yeah. So we got to get on this, and we really want to get this done before the fall. At the very least, get it in the can, because then that's whenever.
Right.
So I'm glad that you gave me an opportunity to talk about that, because I think people are trying to figure out what is actually happening on set. What are people actually doing? How are we going to get this done? It's daunting.
Well, a lot of people have asked me that too, and some of my boss and Performing Arts Studio West, and Megan, who is in charge of a lot of the casting or the getting people out. It's they're seeing a lot of different auditions coming up, but we have to stick by, to protect your own actors. You really want to go by the book on this. Absolutely.
Well, this is interesting, this Zoom thing, because we've already started doing rehearsals via Zoom. And we have 4 actors on screen. And the interesting thing about this is that it almost becomes an added tool for rehearsing, because when you're in a physical space, you're distracted by the physicality, the space between you, or whatever that is, because it's not a play, it's a movie.
Right.
And so seeing everybody rehearse their parts on screen actually is an added help, because you're only reacting to what you're seeing on the screen. Now, guaranteed, it's not the same angle that you would shoot at. It's not the same video quality, but it gives you a sense of how this actor's work is coming across on screen, because we are an on-screen medium. We're a technical medium. You know, that's the difference between doing a play and doing television and film. You know, the play is audience interaction. The physicality is different. On television and in films, it's all right here. You know, if I'm right here and we're talking about something, you're getting a sense of how big my nose is right now. It's a tie.
Yeah.
Jewish, Italian, whatever it takes.
Hey, we're both from planet Earth.
There you go. Thank you.
That I know of.
Yes. Well, apparently that can be debated.
Yeah. What are you most proud of in your life?
Wow, that's a really great question, because it has to be kind of, well, okay. I think what I could say is, even though it's been very difficult to be a dad, a grandfather of 4, but to be able to do that, have my family give me the love that they do, being married to the same person for 37 years,
right,
and have a successful career at the same time. I think I have to lump all of that together again, because I've had some great mentors who showed me that it was possible to have a normal family life and be in the entertainment industry, because it's not easy.
No.
Not with traveling, with the long hours. You know, I'm very fortunate that Ellen, as you mentioned, my dear wife, she's an artist, you know, in her own right. She does these wonderful pen and ink drawings that are absolutely fantastic. In fact, I have one of them right here.
I love it. I love when she sends me, you know.
Yeah, I know. Right?
When,
well, so this, I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah.
This is the cover of my CD, and it's a ladybug that she drew, and she calls it the Zen bug. And her talent and her ability to be patient the way she is to do that is the gift to me, because she understands what it takes for me to work on scripts or orchestrations, arrangements, and to be understanding that that's, you know, and to love the fact that I'm being productive, and she understands what it takes. And I think I know some musicians and actors whose significant others are perhaps not as understanding, and it makes it more difficult to do your craft. You know, when someone's saying, "What about me? What about me?" You know,
well, it seems like you have a good balance, the two of you.
Yes.
You love to see each other succeed.
It's wonderful, and you know, during this COVID-19 lockdown, so to speak, or at least the precautions that we're taking, my daughter, and my daughter's a single mom, and she has a 4-year-old, and because we have a swing set out front, and we have a gated area, she's been coming over every single day since the lockdown started with her daughter, and either they come and they go swimming, or she goes on the swings, or we run around the yard. And I've been getting exercise. I get a chance to spend time with my amazing granddaughter, Evergreen. That's her name. We call her
Evergreen.
Evie. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that.
And she's so precious. She's such a special little girl. She's like a little comedian.
How old is she?
She's 4. She just turned 4 on my daughter's birthday. She was born on my daughter's birthday. And like me, I was born on my dad's birthday. So we got a little thing.
That is like magic, that you both have that connection.
Yeah. And it's been really, you know, even though it's been difficult during this period of time, it's actually been a time where we've really been able to really come together as a family. Unfortunately, my other 3 grandchildren live in Georgia with my son and his wife, and so, but we get to see them a couple of times a year. Right. But I've been able to see Evergreen and my daughter Emily every day, and so it's been really lovely, and to share that, even if it's an hour and a half, and usually somewhere between after my nap later in the day, and then they come over and we'll do a swim or whatever till around 6:30 or 7:30, and then I'll go back into the studio and work. And we've been doing a lot of work like this virtually with the team. So keeping a schedule is important, and yet having that time to really spend that time with family has been really great. You have to source, David, as an actor and as a musician, you have to source your real life. You can't just be all in your craft. What we draw on as actors and as musicians from the world that we live in, the observations of being with people and sharing relationships is what informs our work. And so the more involved we are with family and with friends and in relationships like that, I think the more genuine and the more grounded our work is.
Stunning. I could go on about you because you've done so much work in the music industry and the acting industry, and I just want to throw out a few things. You worked on music with Cheers and Frasier and Friends, correct?
Friends, we only did a couple of shows. Our work with Cheers and Frasier, the work with Frasier and Cheers was really fun because we had a band that played on the set for 11 years for Cheers and 11 years for Frasier. So almost every Tuesday night for those 22 years, we had a band. And what we would do is the audience would come in, the warm-up guy would tell a few jokes, and then we would play songs in between the set changes, and we played a whole concert. It was kind of like a David Letterman band where we would play pop and rock tunes, but instrumentally for the audience. And we got to be on the show a couple of times, and of course we got to hang with all the actors, which was so much fun.
Oh.
And I got to watch, it was like going to school, David, because I got to watch David Burrows, one of the best 3-camera directors in the history of television, do his magic. And I watched these actors do this. And I feel like I went to acting school for 22 years, watching these people change the script a little bit, do some ad-libbing here and there, how the director asked them to do. So I feel like I really went to school during that period of time. So yeah.
Wow. And then what is it? A couple of years ago, you were on this hugely successful show, Expelled.
Yeah, that feature film really put my face on the map. I've been able to. People have come up to me at the Apple Store or at Target or whatever, and they say, "Weren't you in that movie?" Because I played the principal of the school. It was kind of like a Ferris Bueller's Day Off movie. But the reason why the movie was so successful is because Cameron Dallas, who at that time already had 22 million followers between his Vine and Instagram and Facebook. So as soon as the movie was released, it was a huge hit and stayed on Netflix for over 4 years. So people got to see my mug like a lot.
Right.
And it was a great role for me because I got to play the snarky kind of, school principal.
Wow.
So that and another movie that I was in that was did really well on Netflix called Prodigy, where I play a very not nice military colonel. So, and that's actually how I met Richard Neal, who's the one of the stars of the Knights of Swing. He was the lead actor in that. He plays the psychiatrist, a fantastic actor, and we struck up a friendship. And then when the Knights of Swing came around, I thought of him immediately because he has such a great ability to really portray a character in a very grounded and real way, and he's a great guy too. And he's one of these kind of guys, David, that is kind of like an entertainment industry encyclopedia. Like he knows who directed all the movies from the 30s on. He knows who did the music scores. He knows who the actors are and what studios they were in. And it's such a great resource because he'll say, "Oh yeah, like in Capra's film, The Best Years of Our Life." When they talk, they use phrases like "holy smokes" and "holy moly" and "yes indeedy." So we made sure that we used that those types of colloquial phrases in our script, and he's one of the associate producers on the project, and he's added a great deal because of his knowledge of the era and just his sense of filmmaking. So it's been great,
Well, it is interesting again how it's brought up over time, and again you connect with people and then you build that relationship and you work with them over and over again. Hopefully,
it's true. Yeah, no, it's true.
But it seems like that. I mean, in most people's cases. Listen, whenever we get out of this quarantine life that we're in and we can all go back to school, I would love you to come and see us all at Performing Arts Studio West in the live.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll even show your movie one day, and then have you and some of the cast come or something.
Oh, that would be fantastic. And I'm sure the cats would love that. Which reminds me,
Yeah.
I have to thank you for a very special actress that is in our cast, Abigail McKee, who you introduced me to, because I remember I called you, because in the movie, she is portraying a young girl, a young woman who has polio. So she walks with a limp.
Mhm.
And because of the work that I did with you, I promised myself if there was someone who was going to be differently abled in the cast, that I would get someone who was. And so you had recommended Abigail, and she actually in real life has CP. And so that just that little bit of her understanding of what it takes to live through that.
Yeah.
She was, people fell in love with her, and we ended up writing a whole bunch more story for her.
Good.
Because everyone fell, and it's interesting because she falls in love with the older brother of our main character, who has come back from the war. And if in modern terms you would say he had PTSD, but back then they called it shell shock. So he was not a nice person. And what's interesting is that because of her brokenness in her life and his brokenness in his life, their brokenness helps each other to become whole. And it's a wonderful, wonderful, really I mean, this movie is such a feel-good story. And the way we've taken what Mr. Roland Jackson, I'd like to mention him a little bit, because he's the man who wrote the story and wrote all the music, and is the executive producer of the project. And it's somewhat autobiographical of him. It's kind of the lead character of the movie's kind of story of, he was in a band called the Knights of Swing in the 40s. And you know, so he's 86 years old, by the way.
Oh, how wonderful.
And we've been friends for 20 years. And I've been working on music of his for a long time. And that's where our relationship started. I orchestrated and arranged a musical that he wrote, and many, many, many contemporary Christian songs and show tunes that he's come up with. And I mean, he's like a Renaissance man. He's written like 3 or 4 books, 2 or 3 different plays. And of course he wrote the story and the screenplay for the Knights of Swing, which my friend David Gutella and I have worked with him to create the film script. And Roland is an amazing man. He's a very astute and sharp as a tack at 86. Just talked to him last night, and we were laughing and talking about how we've shaped different parts of the narrative. And it was interesting because he wrote the pilot, and we kind of collaborated on the script for that. But then he wrote episodes 2 through 9. So it's like about 300 and some minutes worth of story that we had to condense down to about an hour. So we took the most interesting and the most soluble plot lines of the story.
Yeah.
And when we told him, he said, look, Roland, let us do this first, and then we'll collaborate with you, because I know how it's going to go. You're going to say, well, do you have to take that out? Why do you have to take that out? What? No, really? You're going to take that out? You know? So, and what he said to me, you're going to love this. This is a great analogy.
Yeah.
He said, Emilio, what if you wrote a piece of music that was 20 minutes long, and the production company said, you have to cut it down to 10 minutes, but we're going to edit it for you.
Oh,
I know. And I went, I think that would be tough. He goes, I just want to let you know that that's how I feel, but go ahead, because I know I won't be able to do it like you guys will be able to do it. And he loved what we did, fortunately.
oh, yeah.
So, and it took a lot of pressure off of him. And he was able, I mean, obviously he made several changes afterwards and said, well, why did you do this? Why don't we do this? And, everything he wanted to change was like, oh, I wish we would have thought of that. Or I'm glad you thought of it, because we didn't.
Yeah.
You know, so it was really, really a great collaboration. We have an absolutely amazing team of production people and cast. Everyone in the cast, we never did an open casting call for the project. Everyone who was in this cast has been a friend of a friend, or someone I went to an acting workshop with, or studied with, or one of my teachers, actually, you know. So it's a very eclectic group of people, but who are all really sort of united by this grassroots effort that we've put together to make the Knights of Swing.
Well, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, we're excited. We're very excited.
I'm sending love on that. I know that everything you touch has I was going to say a musical breath to it.
That's very kind of you. Thank you.
But it's not just that. It is heart. It's so much. It's Emilio.
Well, that's interesting that you mentioned that, because one of our the acting coach that worked with us on set, who was my acting coach for many years, gave me a nice compliment when we were on set, because we were doing a particular scene that involved a dance and involved dialogue during a dance, and then you know the music stops, and there's anyway he watched what I was doing during he says, you know, your musical background is what's informing you as a director, because you have this sense of rhythm. And I think that that's what filmmaking and acting is about. It's the same thing. It's a sense of rhythm, of timing, of seeing how movement goes together. And I feel very blessed that my musical talent has helped to inform my directing and my acting.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Lou, are you on any sort of medication that I, as your longtime friend, should be aware of?
Herb, I'm a jazz pianist who got the gig as the principal of Castle High. Do the math, huh?